Hello and welcome, you lovely listeners and watchers, to our podcast, Talking Female Health with Amy Connor and Lisa Yara. We hope you enjoy our little show. And if you do, please leave us a thumbs up for this video, for the other videos. Subscribe to the podcast, leave us comments, leave us reviews of what you loved about it. We are always happy to hear. And if you've got questions that you would like us to talk about, feel free to drop them also. So these past few weeks, there has been a lot of talk about detoxifying, detoxing the lymphatic system and how it is your body's waste removal system, the liver and the role it plays as a super mom in your, that was an amazing episode. Totally go and check that out. And how your liver is supporting detoxification as well, and all of that serving your body to have a healthy environment, healthy cell environment. So every function can be working normally as it should. And in this whole realm of detoxification, there is one important topic that we need to address, which is how to get the toxins out of the body. And there are two main ways, which is poop and pee. So today we are going to address the first, and in the next episode we are going to address the second. So welcome to our episode on why the way you poop matters.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that introduction, Lisa. And I'm really excited to talk about this topic because I just don't think there are enough conversations being had around this and enough understanding. And anyone who knows me will know that I always talk about poo. If anyone's ever struggling with anything, I always ask them about their bowel habits because it's such an important piece of the bigger picture. And as Lisa said, we've talked a lot about the importance of detoxing and how the body needs to have these elimination pathways in order to keep itself clean and healthy and happy. And our bowels is one of these major ways that it can help. And it's so important that we are aware of what's a happy, healthy bowel, how it acts, how it moves, like what it's saying for us. And we were just speaking before we hit record about how this has been a big part of my learning journey with my body, especially because I struggled with bowel movements for years. And I was that person that went for weeks and weeks and weeks without a bowel movement. And I would go and have chronic irrigation. Like I would go and get all the help I could get to remove my poop from me because it just wasn't happening naturally. And through my whole health journey, no one ever spoke to me about how important or how significant that piece was, that my body wasn't able to eliminate the toxins that were building up inside it. And it's no wonder that I ended up with disease happening. So I think it's really important that we start by talking about how often we should be going to the toilet and what those bowel movements should look like, feel like, how long they should take, and really dive into this part of it. So
yeah, I feel like the first thing, because that also came up in our pre-conversation, that we want to say is like, there is, of course, just a rule of thumb of what's considered healthy for you and your body. There is, however, a very clear understanding between Amy and I that having a bowel movement once a week is too little.
Yes, yeah, like absolutely. And there's a lot of information out there that will say, you know, you need to be going X times a day or X times a week to have a healthy bowel. And as Lisa said, it's very individual. It's very much down to the way you're working your body and the way you're feeding your body. And I always like to talk about how, as a rule of thumb, the output should be matching the input. So if you are somebody who is eating a lot, moving a lot, like doing all of the things, then your bowel movements, as a rule of thumb, are going to be more regular and more substantial than somebody who is moving less, eating less. You know, that the two are going to be completely different. That doesn't mean that one person is healthier than the other when it comes to their bowel health. That means that it's a reflection of what is happening in their body, in the way that they're living their lives, you know, through their bowel. So I think that's a really important piece to bring forward, because we can be aiming for a certain frequency of bowel movements that might just not be obtainable for us. Like, you know, you might be told that you have to go 3 times a day, 2 times a day, 3 times a week, whatever it is that you've been told, and you just can't get there. And there could be reason why you're not getting there, because you know you need some help and support on that. Or it could just be that that's just not what's right for your body. And that's okay too. So the message here, as with everything that we talk about, is that you are an individual and your body works the way that it works. And it's really hard to put generalized statements out about things like this. And I think that's something that we see a lot in the health space, that there are these generalizations made, and it leads to a lot of confusion and people just getting misinformation and worrying about things that they don't need to be worrying about.
Yeah. So what I've learned from my research, and that's what I like to say, is like anything between twice a day and every other day can be considered absolutely normal. Again, depending on your body type, the activity you have during the day, the amount of food you eat, and also what I've found, the moment where you're at in your cycle, if you have a menstrual cycle, because for example, me, right before my bleed, I have a harder time. I can't go as frequently. And at other times, it's much easier. And that is okay. That can just be part of your cyclical process too. So there are all these factors that play into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, like going back to talking about frequency, going too much can also be a bad sign, you know, quote unquote, a bad sign, because and this is why it's important for us to talk about what that bowel movement looks like and what the experience is like. Because if you're eating a meal and then having to rush to the toilet straight away to have a liquid, loose stool, that isn't ideal. So again, when we're talking about frequency, really important that you also have that conversation about what the actual bowel movement is like. And for me, I like to think of it as, you know, the ideal bowel movement would be painless and be as smooth an operation as possible. So we're not sat there, you know, or we're not rushing to the toilet because it's like, you know,
now or never.
A quick release, yeah, like an emergency
now or
situation.
catastrophe.
Yeah, exactly. Or and also you're not sat there waiting for the bowel movement to finish. Like it's not a long drawn out process. And you know, I was saying to Lisa before we hit record that I can remember growing up and I still see it now, like the stereotypical, I'm going to get my paper or I've got my phone or my book because I'm going to go and sit on the toilet and empty my bowels for the morning or whatever the situation was. Like that belief that it was a strain to eliminate your bowels, which again isn't ideal. And like I always like to think that as little wiping as possible is also a good sign of a good bowel movement, because again, if you are having a mess, it's a sign that your body is eliminating more quickly than it should do. And this is actually a sign of detox, going back to like the lymphatic and the detox episodes. Like this is quite a common sign of detox that I see in my clients, where they have that urgency to get to the toilet and things are coming out quickly, but it's a temporary process because their body's like, if your bowel has something bad in it that it wants to get out, like it's going to tell you it needs to get out now. Like this is bad stuff. Get it out, get it out, get it out. Which is why when you get like diarrhea and like, you know, stomach infections, that's why you have that urgency and that cramping to get it out as quick as possible. So the bowel does work in that way as a protection mechanism for the body to get rid of the toxins. So again, it could be that you step into your health journey and you start detoxing and your bowels change, your bowel movements change and they become more frequent and you have this urging and this cramping. And that's a temporary thing that is okay because the body is doing what it needs to do. Yeah.
And just to come back to that one point, which addresses several of the things you've mentioned, is that it also depends, like all frequency and consistency, it all depends on your particular metabolism. Because there are some people who like whose bodies really draw out the last bit of nutrients out of the food. And so of course they will have less or little bowel movement. And for someone who has like is quicker in that, and maybe the body can't absorb or doesn't absorb as much, then it will be more frequent. And neither is to say that one body is more healthy than another. That's again paying attention to how does your body feel, and also how does it feel after you've emptied.
Yes.
Do you feel empty? Or do you feel like there is still something somewhere that's just not coming out, which is again not an ideal situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And
to refer to that piece of it shouldn't be with a strain, the way we sit on a toilet in our Western culture is not how our bodies are designed to empty completely. Neither poop nor pee. And that's why by now there are all these things like, what's it called in English? There is this brand, Squatty Potty.
Oh, this is Squatty Potty, yeah.
Basically a little stool,
steps.
do you say that? Like little steps where you can put your feet on, just so that you've got a leverage, more inclined like position, and that the last part of your gut can really open up and just release easily, smoothly everything that needs to be released.
Absolutely, yeah. And you don't have to have a Squatty Potty. Like I just refer to it as a poo step. And you can use anything. Like a lot of people that I know have young children, so they have the little steps that the children are using anyway to get to the sink or the toilet. So you can use them to elevate your feet. You can use the bathroom bin. You've got like a ledge and
yoga blocks.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is definitely something that I recommend you. I mean, they're so cheap to get, and it's such a significant help for even if you don't feel that you've got problems with, you know, your bowel movements or peeing. Like it's one of the things that I really recommend that people use, male, female, and it's the one thing that I get the most feedback from. Like I'm getting messages all the time from friends and family saying, "Oh God, this poo step's changed my life. It's amazing." And you know, like I laugh at myself because I will take mine with me if I'm going away. It comes with me, because I find it so much harder to go to the toilet without it, because I have almost trained my body that that's the expected position for it to be in when we go to the toilet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite fun because like I have studied Chinese and I've traveled through China so much, and especially Asian countries, they still have a lot of these basically just holes in the floor when you go to the bathroom. And many Westerners find that very, very disconcerting. And I can just say, like, I have learned and easily adapted to doing things that way. So like my body knows what position it needs even when I'm sitting on a Western toilet, so I can like mimic that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I have actually seen like, well, I haven't seen, I've heard of people that actually squat on the toilets, which I would not.
Chinese do sometimes when they
Yeah,
come to Europe and go
yeah.
traveling here.
I'm just not, I don't think I've got the balance or I'm brave enough to do that. But yeah, I've heard of that as well. So definitely how you prepare the body for a bowel movement is really important. And I could talk so much on that topic as well, because if you have a negative relationship with your bowel movements, if you're somebody who is, you know, like especially with endometriosis sufferers, they tend to get diagnosed with IBS as well. They have infrequent or painful bowel movements because endometriosis can grow around the bowel. Like if you're creating negativity around the thought of opening your bowel, that is really powerful, and the body will respond to that. So it's really important that when we are thinking about going to the toilet, firstly, that we actually honor the body's need to go to the toilet and we don't put it off, because that's something that we see a lot in society. There's embarrassment about going to the toilet, especially if you're not in your own home.
Even talking about it.
Yes.
My God,
yeah.
we're doing a whole episode on it.
Yeah, like I find it hilarious when my nibblings or my niece and nephews come round and they're all under 5, like they're young, and they will just broadcast, I'm going for a poo, and like they'll go and have a poo, and then it's like, oh yeah, I've had my poo, and it's just like the most normal thing in the world for them to go and empty the bowels when they need to. But yet there comes this age where it becomes, you know, embarrassing, that we don't talk about it.
Inappropriate,
Yes.
quote unquote.
Yeah. And then all of this stigma around it comes up, and we're thinking, oh God, I can't ask her to the toilet, or, you know, I better hold it in and I better deny my body what it has to.
Oh my God, someone might smell it.
Yes. Oh,
lo and behold.
Even worse. Yeah, so there's so many different layers to having a healthy bowel movement beyond what you're eating, like, you know, diet. Obviously fluid intake is really important, but if you feel that you're doing all the right things and you're still not getting the results that you hope for, then I don't really like this word, but like mindset and the relationship that you have around going to the toilet, and also what you've been told in the past, like your childhood experiences, are really interesting to explore, because you know, I've got I'm thinking of my nibbling here, like he's 5. He went as soon as he started going to school, he had a lot of anxiety about going to the toilet, and especially going to the toilet for a poo. And there'd be occasions where, you know, he'd get picked up from school and it'd be like literally rushing him home. He's like literally like dying to get home to go to the toilet, and in pain and crying. And when I explored this with his mum and his dad, like the toilet is in the classroom.
Really?
Like there's just literally a cube, and I've seen this myself. Like I've been in schools and I've seen it, because then obviously the teacher can still see them. And you know, so like bless him, if you're going for a poo, everyone can hear, you know, like it's very, very exposed.
Yes.
And like when I heard that, my nervous system was like, oh, like no wonder he's terrified
Mm-hmm.
of going to the toilet, you know, and I've heard, and this is really common in schools now, that toilets are within classrooms. And, you know, I've heard from my other nephew, who again is really young, he's like just started school, and he'll be telling me stories about the boy that won't have a poo at school, or the boy that did have a poo and everybody laughed at him. And like just this culture
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
pooing's funny, but also you don't want to get caught doing it because
Yeah.
it's like ultimate shame. And that's going to live in your body. Like you're going to hold that relationship and that understanding of, you know, when I give my body what it's asking for, I can potentially be picked on, humiliated, you know. So that piece, I just find it so, like, I could talk about going to the toilet forever because there's just so many different pieces of it that come in
Yeah.
that are really, really important.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, like, and by the way, I hope I didn't come off as standoffish before, because me too, I'm working on these thoughts that I have, because even though I know of the importance, I still have a hard time talking about these things, taking the words, the appropriate words into my mouth. That should be normal.
Yeah.
But when you're subconscious, and I think that's like, you don't like the mindset piece, and I understand that, and it's your subconscious really that's having these unconscious thoughts, these beliefs around it. And when your subconscious tells you it's not safe, guess what? You will have a harder time.
Yeah.
There might be straining, or there might be no bowel movement at all. And like, because our subconscious is so strong and so vast, it will have like the most influence there is. And I was just thinking, for example, I know from my husband, when he and his friends went to like these big several day festivals, rock music festivals, they wouldn't go to the, like, have a bowel movement for 4 days in a row. They wouldn't feel the need, but as soon as they came home, there was the need. But their subconscious had primed them for, I don't do it over there, because all sorts of horrible things could happen, like people throwing over the toilets and all these things, right? So our subconscious is a really big driver, and it's really good to explore your beliefs and thoughts around what it actually means, especially as a woman or a person socialized as woman, who is supposed to not smell. It should all be lovely. No, we don't have that. Yes, we do. We are humans. And I'm like, from my time in China, I remember that there were, especially in rural areas, these holes in the ground, and sometimes there wouldn't even be much of a separation between one hole and the next, and it was just normal that women would be chatting while pooping. Like, it's the most normal thing in the world. And and it has a lot to do with our culture and where we grow up.
Absolutely. And I think like what you've just said there about it was really normal for women to be chatting and pooing. Like here in the UK, it's not uncommon, sorry, for like nightclub toilets to have women sharing cubicles, like going for a wee together. You know, and I like, there's times here when like the children are here and it's busy, and you know, maybe the kids are in the bath, and I will go to the toilet in front of my friend, and like, but there's still that thing of, I wouldn't do a poo though. Like it's that like that line of, oh no, it's completely inappropriate to have a bowel movement in front of someone, but it's okay for me to have a wee. So much to think about, and there's so many more layers to it than where we started, of what your input matching your output. Like it's not just about what's going in and what's coming out. There's just so much around it. And feeling safe, like to me, the big thing that comes up is feeling safe to have a poo. I really, really struggled. I'm so much better now, but like like you were saying about your husband, like going somewhere else to have a poo, like I definitely wouldn't have a poo at a festival, but going to friends and family's houses or being out in public, I just wouldn't feel safe.
Mm.
And now I do. I've obviously like subconsciously done the work that needed to be done there. I couldn't tell you what it was, but yeah, that piece around the vulnerability of having a bowel movement. Because for me it was such a vulnerable thing because I hadn't ever, I feel like when I look back and reflect on my life and my health, I feel like I was never really taught how to poo healthily.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into this.
Well, it's nothing we talk about.
Exactly. And, I would have these conversations with doctors and they'd be like, oh, well, why aren't you going every day? And I'd be like, well, I didn't know I was meant to go. I didn't know I was meant to go every day. I didn't know how often I was meant to go. And I didn't know this was a problem until all of the symptoms like backed up and started to cause me issues. So I think that's a really important thing to acknowledge as well, that, your nervous system needs to be safe, feel safe for you to be functioning, and creating safety around bodily functions like going for a poo is really important.
Yeah, and I mean, just look at the role of the nervous system. It's relaxing your body, it's relaxing
Absolutely.
your muscles, it's opening your body, and
Yeah.
whoop, it goes much smoother.
Yeah.
And I think like what really helped me was my time in China, actually, because ever since then I have to go. I'm going.
Yeah.
I don't care where I am. If my body says I need to go, I will go.
I love hearing you talk about it because it just sounds like I can see how that would be such a like remarkable experience for you. And for me now, like my husband still laughs at me because we celebrate every bowel movement I have because like he was with me when he was like, how have you not had a poo in 6 weeks? Like this is really frightening. Like so now I can remember almost training my body to again feel safe and it was painful because my bowel hadn't been opening. Like it's almost I had to learn the process. The body had to learn how to do it. And now I have this celebration around it and I have really open conversations around it. And like I say all the time, like just changing the narratives because as soon as I started talking about it to other people, we have really good conversations about it and discover how we can help each other. And, like I say, talking about my nephew and his toilet phobia and just recognizing it from an earlier age so we can hopefully do better for the next generation. Yeah.
And we are really curious for you as the listener or watcher, what's coming up for you, your experience. If you don't want to share it openly in the comments, feel free to send us an email. We understand, we value your privacy, but we would love to know, how's your experience? What are your thoughts? Have you encountered problems? What sparked your intrigue today from what we've shared? We've talked about how important it is for the frequency, for the consistency of the poop, and the easiness of emptying your bowels, and how it depends on your body, and that there is a rule of thumb, but it's really for you to explore this. Of course, if you find there are any difficulties and you want to reach out to Amy or to myself and start working on this, we would love to have you. We would love to get in touch with you. So you will find all the information below. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's episode about poop. And stay tuned for the next episode, which is to be about the, how do you say, accompaniment? Like the collaborative partner of your gut.
Partner in crime.
Which is your bladder.
Yeah.
And the way you pee or wee.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.